Howdy of you delicious people. I'm here today to review a movie called Don't Breathe. These movies are just kind of getting to have a lot of weird titles, but I'm just like, hey, let me see what this movie is about, because, it seems that the sequel was popular for whatever reason, but I never saw the original one. So, uh, going for this Don't Breathe film, I would say a few things here. There is this one movie that I saw called Hush, and it kind of feels very similar to this movie. But also there is a Michael Keaton movie called Blindsided that is pretty much just like this movie, but taken from the a different perspective from that film. So uh so going into this movie, the real teeing up of this film, if people don't know what it is, but let me let you know exactly where you can go to watch this film. So I used to do this app called Letters C Movies, but I think I'm transitioning onto another app called Yes Movies. The logo will say Yes Movies, and it'll say movies and series. And go through that one, download that app. You should probably be able to watch any number of things for absolutely free, or you can go into an app called Fox HD Movies and check that out. I'm not getting sponsored for saying any of these. I just want people to be able to watch a movie not having to pay for it, if that is their choice, or go into any other app to watch this movie wherever the heck that it is. So, teeing it up, what is this movie about? Well, it's a heist film. A heist film that eventually is to go horribly awry. All of a sudden, we find out quite a bit of the person that these people are stealing from. This guy is just straight up creepy. Yeah, but it's very interesting how this guy was able to do all of this stuff, considering the person that they're stealing from is actually blind. So yeah, that makes for a very interesting film. But yeah, so Hush is about a girl who was to be uh of loss of her hearing, and so there's to be a guy in this creepy mask who is to uh kill this girl's best friend, and then all of a sudden spots this girl and is just kind of going around her house and eventually going in the house and looking at her from afar without her knowing. And Hush is a really interesting film. If you've never seen it, check that out. Blind Side is about a girl who is to, of course, be blind, and Michael Keaton and I think some men of his go and break into this girl's home because of the guy that she was with. So, that becomes a very interesting movie as well. But yeah, luckily I knew both of those things, but maybe somebody might be interested of either one of those movies after watching this. Uh, so really, I pretty much got into tee up territory, telling people what this is. How did I feel about this movie? I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was really just I was like, okay, this movie just has so much to just unpack here. And I was just like, man, this movie went from a simple film to all of a sudden just this long stretch of a, whoever wrote this, man, they can just stretch a movie. Bravo to the writing team of this movie that knows how exactly to just stretch a film, in all honesty. Cause man, did they stretch it, but I'm just a little impressed freaking how you have this guy who is to be blind, but like you wouldn't be able to tell that. You wouldn't be able to tell. You would just be like, oh no, like he can just easily just like. And the people just thought that this was going to be like the easiest job ever, the easiest thing. And then you end up having to like, you end up having to root for bad people. But then again, there's like this equal footing eventually that this film lands into. And so, yeah, it just makes to be just a very interesting film. So let's go out of our way to break this bad boy down and talk about it and reveal everything that goes on in this movie. Because I think it's about that coveted time yet again to go into that double 5 time territory. Because it is spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about that time I'm going to spoil this movie. And 3 people, Rocky, Alex, Money. We have a guy named Money. So, Money and the rest of this group are thieves who only take 10 grand's worth of loot. Because Alex is to tell both of these people, hey, only take 10 grand's worth, so that way if they are to ever get caught, the crime won't be too, like, heinous for them to, like, go to prison for a long time. So, like, try to at least just minimize how much you're going to steal. So, evidently Alex is to easily be able to have keys for all of these homes. I guess his father is some keymaker or some locksmith or something, which I guess can easily help us understand that that Alex can easily just break into everyone's home. So they go into this house, and of course, like, bizarrely, we have Money, who is just kind of pouring stuff all over to make him look like he's like spewing himself from the pants down, if you know what I mean. It looks like from a camera angle that he's just peeing all over the living room, but that's not what he's doing. So Rocky is to like change up her clothes and just throw on these nice threads and just like plop onto this bed. You would have thought that if the police like were there, they probably could have gotten a hair sample from this girl, and well, bam, like these people would have probably been caught. Especially if Rocky was to like plant her hair onto the bed, they probably could have found a hair sample and just like, oh well, like this must be the killer, or this must be the thief. Yeah, that's the correct term. So they steal all the stuff they are to steal, close the door, and then make it look like they're amateurs. They break into the window, and then, or they break into, not a window, they break into a door that's a glass door, and then they run off. The alarm sounds, they run off, and just they're supposedly near and dear in the clear. So the next job is to come up, and Money is just like, hey man, there is to be this blind guy who had this large settlement coming to him, and man, we should go after this guy next. Like, this should be an easy job, and like, man, are we just gonna be able to just like, it's gonna be in and out, and but they're wanting to steal this large sum of money, and Alex is just like, no. Like, evidently you guys don't listen to me when I tell you should only be stealing 10 grand worth of stuff, because if we are to get caught, then we will go away to jail forever. Rocky is to mention, well, if we do this one big job, we'll never have to do another one again. So Alex is just like, no. So Alex is to eventually marinate on things, kind of look this guy up, kind of do his research. Rocky is to go home to her family, where it seems that like things don't seem all that great. Her young sister is wanting to go surf somewhere, and Rocky's just like, well, we can't surf anywhere here, like, but you know where we can surf? California. Because Alex is just say like, okay, well, I'm in, which just says like, okay, they're going to do this job. So Money and everybody to go and try and sneak into this man's house at night. Seems this guy is like playing maybe some TV, or maybe he's playing over and over a home video. This guy seems drunk or some kind of out of it, besides just him being tired. It seems like a guy that, I don't know, like, you can classify any number of things about this guy. But anyway, uh, so Rocky is to break through the window of this and open up the window, and then she's like walking around with her feet. All of a sudden, there's a piece of glass that kind of goes in her uh, like kind of like stuck to her shoe. She ends up pulling it off. So, because I think they end up having to forcibly go, I think, through uh, like a goofy way to get into this house, because they can't go through the normal way of which that they want to, because they're like trying to figure out like a way in, but Rocky has to go by herself to try to sneak into this home. So Rocky is just kind of like look around and just say, "Hey guys, come on in, but take off your shoes." It's like, I'm sorry, if I'm gonna go, like, here's my thought process. If I'm gonna go in someone's home, I am, one, probably not gonna take my shoes off, especially if it's a stranger. Or two, I'm gonna do this thing called have my shoes on me at all times. I'll tie the laces together and like toss them onto my shoulder, or I'm just gonna like, dude, I'm holding on to my shoes. Like anything could happen. Like as if I'm planning this, as if it were to like, but I'm just going through this scenario, and if I were to be forced to have to be a part of said scenario because movie tells me to, then that is the thought process of which that I would go into this movie with. Moving on. So Money is to go into seemingly the blind man's room, because evidently this guy doesn't have a name in this movie. He's called Blind Man. The Blind Man. That's sad. They couldn't have given him a name, something, somewhere. Money opens, like, takes a little, like, poker and opens this bottled water container filled with this gas. The blind man is to wake up because evidently he hears his TV. He turns his TV off. But yeah, so Money goes, does the drugs. Money goes back to the group and is like, "Hey, like we did it. Like we're golden. Now we just gotta go to this one secret room to get all this guy's stash." There's a hefty amount of just like a lock thing on it, and Money seems to not have the tools for for what he's to do here. He tries like using like a crowbar esh like thing, but that's not gonna work. Like this blind man is kind of like really thought about like, hey, if you're gonna try to get into something, you're not gonna get very far. Money pulls out a gun, and both Alex and Rocky are like, whoa. Alex is saying, dude, you should not have brought a gun in here, because if this guy is to wake up for whatever reason, even though he's drugged, he's going to be able to easily have the ability to kill every single one of us because he is to defend himself, and he'll get scot-free because he's self-defending himself. And Money is just like, whatever, man. Like, I'm going to protect myself, because if this guy is going to come at me, then freaking I'm going to have some preparation for this guy. Because supposedly this guy seems to be of a skill, so we're going to find that out in this movie. And plus, I'm kind of saying vague stuff in certain portions of this movie. Anyways. Money breaks the one top lock thing, but we have Blind Man who just makes it out of his room and is just walking around through his house. And so, like, Alex is just like, dude, I'm getting freaking out of here. Because once Money was to have the gun, Alex was like, I'm deuces. Like, this is just going to end badly. And I don't want to be here to see what happens. But, like, Alex is kind of hesitant because he is, like, attracted to Rocky. Money kind of makes the joke about, like, Alex being way too protective over Rocky. Like, mentioning how Alex could probably be, like, fapping it to Rocky's Instagram photos. Like, hey, man, you're not her boyfriend if you're fapping it to, like, her Instagram photos. Like, come on, man. Like, so, the Blind Man makes his way to the spot where Money and just now Rocky are. Rocky is to be so quiet that the Blind Man only suspects Money being here. Money is to have his gun out, and this Blind Man is just kind of like praying and just kind of like, oh, please, oh, please. Like, he keeps kind of moving his hands, just kind of like do this like praying motion. The Blind Man is also not saying much, but Money is to tell him, like, hey, man, step back. Hey, man, like, I'm going to shoot you. Like, I have a gun. But the Blind Man just continues to get closer and closer and closer to Money, to the point the Blind Man grabs Money and is to muscle the gun out of this guy. His control, really. The Blind Man is to tell Money, like, how many of you are here? Tell me now. Money says nothing. At first, Money was a guy that was pretending to have stumbled into this place because he was drunk or whatever. It's like, yeah, I don't think so. Like, I'm not gonna buy that. This guy has his house seemingly well fortified for the most point. So it's not seemingly easy to break into this guy's home. But, because eventually we'll go into other rooms, and there's like bars in front of some windows and all kinds of crazy, like, stuff eventually we're going to see. So the Blind Man shoots Money, and then eventually tries to clean up the body, puts a garbage bag over this guy's head. Rocky is to quickly go into this closet. Alex is to text Rocky to figure out what's going on, seeing where she is. Rocky is to text Alex that the blind man shot Rocky, or the blind man shot Money, and I'm in the closet. So Alex is like, well, I guess I need to just go back then. So while this blind man is to continue to shift and go throughout his home, uh, eventually Rocky is to make it down into this seemingly secret room that this guy has in his home, because she is to open this door to see uh, what this payday is of what she's going to get is. But bizarrely opens this door to have to go down this ladder to go like bizarrely into this weird and wild tunnel of things. And eventually Alex also is to make his way down there. So eventually they find that not only is there weed down there, or like obviously some, like I would assume weed or something, but not only that, they find a woman down there. This kind of feels similar to the movie, like Delirium with Topher Grace, where Topher Grace is to be this seemingly crazy person. We're not really sure if he's sane or crazy. He goes back to his home to be in house arrest, and eventually there's to be some place by his room by his pool that he finds some like secret little place where his mother had been hiding the entire time, which was just like, that was such a interesting but weird movie. But you don't know if the guy is crazy or not, and that's the only like interesting thing about that film. So they go down there, they see that this woman is just smacking against this uh against, like, was there, no, she, I think she, what she ends up doing is she ends up going flying at them, but then has to stop because like she's on technically some weird leash. A bell is to go off, so the blind man is to naturally assume that maybe there had been two other people that had went down in the place that they should not have. In the beginning stages of this movie, Rocky, Alex, and Money are looking at this one like cellar door, but like they of course didn't have like a way to get in there, so they're like try to figure out every opening that they can get into this house, and Rocky was to go into one, which was a window. So the blind man is to go from, or go to this cellar door thing to have this stairwell that is to be able to shoot anybody like randomly. The blind man is to shoot like very severely random, where we have both Alex and Rocky who almost get like, Alex is like, I think get clipped in the ear. Uh, Rocky is to kind of dodge the bullets, but uh, the blind man's woman that he is with, I think her name is Diddy. Diddy. She is to get like shot in the face and then blood out. This woman, I guess, was pregnant, so both Rocky and Alex are to eventually try and run away from the blind man and get a pretty good distance away from him. So the blind man, considering he can't track them, eventually starts feeling around. All of a sudden, he bumps into, I think, Diddy. All of a sudden realizes that she's dead, and now he's like mourning over her loss. He's like, oh, he's crying. But then the blind man switches. Now he's like freaking ticked. So he takes this cellar door, closes it. I don't like. I'm probably saying the door wrong. Like for a lot of people, it's like, oh well, it's just a certain kind of door, and that's not the door. Whatever the door is to get down to this like underground, like basement of a place that this guy is to have. So to try to just like, because I know a lot of people might just be like, well, in certain detail of this exact moment, exactly how it plays out is this, and that's perfectly okay. Because at the end of the day, like eventually someone else will see that and be like, oh, that's great. And I'll just be like, oh, okay, this was a one-off experience for me. Great. like it's good that like somebody wants to like comment because that's always fun. Anyways, uh, so Blind Man goes and takes this lock and makes it so no one is going to be able to pick it or get a key in it or whatever. He puts like a nail into the lock so no one will be able to get out. The blind man goes and shuts off the power, making it an even playing field for both Rocky and Alex. So now, like, you. But here's the great thing, we have these people in the dark, and you can actually see in the movie what's going on. It's not in some like weird green night vision that I'm just like, God, this sucks. No, like it looks like there is like some weird like just enough light there kind of scene, or like they must have done some kind of night vision camera of a thing that looks great, or otherwise they probably just did this during like the day, or during like having the light on, and they adjusted it afterwards. I don't know what they did here, but like this was freaking great, to just see these people just kind of stumble and fumble around. And the blind man eventually grabs Alex, uh, from God, from this shelf from behind Alex and tries to grab on him. But Alex goes and tips the shelf over onto the blind man. So it seems that Alex knows the way out of here, because Rocky and Alex are trying to figure out like what could be a way to get out of here, whether it's going through the front door or something. Because Alex is to mention that he has the keys to get out of there, so Rocky should be able to use the keys, try to get out of there. So both Alex and Rocky make it out of this room, try to go to the door and try to start to unlock things, but they end up finding out that there's a huge Rottweiler of a dog. I'm assuming it's Rottweiler. I've seen Cujo. I saw a Cujo once, and that makes me think Rottweiler. No, like this dog is like massive. It's freaking like it's. Anyways, so this huge of a dog. Maybe it's not Rottweiler. Big dog, big black dog, whatever. So big dog, big scary dog. Ooh. Because while Money, Rocky, and Alex were planning their way into this home, Money was to have his car get attacked by this dog. Like, ah, rah, rah, rah. Money was like, ah, rah, rah, back. Rocky tries to get this door open, but there's too many freaking locks on this door. So they just scramble into some other room because of this dog. They put some armoire in front of the door, and it's just like, man, like, we gotta figure some way freaking out of here. So Rocky is like, cause like Alex is almost tempted to set off the alarm so the cops come, and then Alex can like negotiate with the cops of what about what had happened. Because if Alex and Rocky are to tell their story, maybe there's a way for them to just kind of get out of this, because like they could kind of play it up or something. But Rocky is to see this ventilation like shaft of a thing. So she decides to just go through there, all while Alex is holding off this armor because the blind man and the dog are trying to make their way into this room, which pushes this door open by this dog. Alex now is to be pushed through this window by this dog, slamming his way onto another window that is cracking. And Rocky's still going through the ventilation, trying to make it freaking out of here. The blind man makes his way through to the window to shoot nearby where Alex is, but the guy is to shoot the window that Alex is on instead of Alex himself. So Alex falls through the window, but is able to get out of there. So I'm trying to think what all happens to Rocky at this moment. Because eventually she gets out of the ventilation shaft to just be caught by the blind man again. But the blind man is to make it to Alex first. So the blind man knows where Alex is, so he makes it back there. And Money's body is nearby. The blind man is to battle with Alex, and we're assuming that the blind man has Alex dead to rights. The blind man grabs these lawn clippers and just stabs supposedly into Alex. The blind man is assuming that Alex is dead. The blind man makes his way to find where Rocky is. So blind man knocks out Rocky and is to drag her where the blind man's other girl was, hooks her up, kind of cuffs her, straps her into this room. And so Rocky is to now be like the new girl that was locked in this section. So the blind man is telling Rocky that this girl was kept here just to give him a child. And supposedly after this girl was to give him a child, the blind man was to supposedly let this girl go. I highly doubt that. I think that he was probably going to kill her afterwards. Just like, okay, you gave me a baby, now you're going to just die. Because why would he let anybody just go? That seems like a weird... Like, it doesn't seem like he's letting anybody go in this film. That's true. So the blind man all of a sudden has this sample of his own, let's just say, men at sea, let's just say. His own juices. his own uh, firing squad. And so this guy just takes this little uh like baker thing, squeezes it into his special men of thing, and his specimen, let's just say, and is to now be walking close to Rocky to cut open her pants to force this woman to have his child. And I'm just like, wow, this movie just went off the freaking rails. Like this move, like this guy, we thought that he was just some person they're taking advantage of, but then we find out that this blind man is taking advantage of this woman. Good God. So Rocky is to try and stop the blind man from doing what he's trying to do. Alex all of a sudden is to wake up because the actual lawn scissors went into, I think, Money's body instead of his. Alex goes down to, with like a hammer in hand, like smack up the blind man before Rocky is to get a specimen into her body. Alex tries to free Rocky, tries to do so. They cuff the blind man. Rocky kicks the blind man for of course, like even measure of just like, hey, like you were gonna try to do that to me, freaking kick in the face. So we are to naturally assume now that everything is going to be perfectly fine, that these two people are going to escape, the movie's going to end. But then you're also looking at the minutes left in this movie. Alex and Rocky are to make it to the door to think that they can take their sweet, sweet time just trying to unlock this door to get the heck out of there. And so instead, Blind Man is to have gun in hand because he had broken his shackle of a thing, his thing that he was being obtained by, and ends up shooting Alex. Right before Rocky and Alex were to make their way to this door, Alex is to mention, because Rocky says, well, like, maybe we should turn this guy in. Maybe we should call the cops anyways on this guy so that way he gets what he deserves. Alex is like, well, like, you do realize that we'll probably go to jail too, but, like, if this is really what you want to do, then I'm with you. Rocky just decides to go to the door and get the heck out of there. The blind guy ends up getting loose, shooting Alex. Alex is now dead. Finally, weirdly, like, yeah, he's dead. No, like I wanted him to live. It seemed like he was the good guy, but Rocky is to get out of this door and run like crazy. Rocky is to see the blind man, and Rocky is like, well, like all there is out here is light. Like, you're not gonna be able to get me because like I can easily be able to see where I'm going. The blind man all of a sudden is like, sick 'em boy, big giant of a dog just. So Rocky is now running like her life depends on it, jumping over this fence, making her way back to this car to realize there's no keys in this car, and Cujo moment all over again. Cujo Part 2. This dog's like, And Rocky is just like, oh God, I'm gonna die here. This is how I die. This is great. Rocky realizes that the window is kind of cracked open on one side. Rocky's just to like the old fashioned car where she used to have to like spin the thing to get the window to come up. This dog is like how he get the dog makes it to the window is like how but Rocky gets the window to go up so like she's safe, but the dog is everywhere. So Rocky's plan is like, oh, I have an idea. Rocky takes the back seat, pushes it down, gets into the trunk, and uses some ties to create a trap for this dog. I'm like, oh my god, that is so smart. That is just like, oh my god, cool. That was freaking awesome. And to just kind of figure this thing out. Rocky opens up the trunk. Dog comes in. She pushes the trunk closed. Also uh, uh, pushes up the seat so that way the dog doesn't get in. So now Rocky is to get out of the car because she's desperately wanting to still get that money bag. So she gets out of the car thinking like, yeah, I think I'm okay. I think everything's good. All of a sudden, Blind Man comes from behind her and just knocks her out again, drags her all the way back into the home. And this is the very first thing we ever see in this movie where I'm like, okay, there's a girl being dragged through the road. Well, whoever is the girl in this movie is probably not going to last very long, but I just don't quite understand what all this means out of context. So the blind man is dragging this girl. Just go ahead and just drag her on. Just go ahead. Just do a little bit of that dragging through the streets of Calcutta. Uh, blind man drags Rocky back into the home because Rocky is still going to have to fulfill some weird, bizarre thing that this guy wants. So Rocky is to look at Alex, who is dead now. Rocky is like, I'm sorry, Alex. Weirdly, Rocky is to have this butterfly not butterfly, ladybug on her like finger. So really, the whole game plan of it all is because Alex had tried to put this crowbar underneath this door. So that eventually leads Rocky to eventually find a weapon for her to use against this blind man. So while the blind man is kind of getting stuff ready, all of a sudden Rocky is to come at this guy with this crowbar to start hitting and smacking him, to have this guy also have a gun, but like it's no good when like somebody's really just attacking you from behind. So this guy falls all the way down his laddery hole because there's a drop here. So this guy drops, shoots himself in the stomach for good measure while he's to fall. And Rocky is to think like, oh great, like so like now he's dead. Like now, like this is over, right? He's shot in the stomach. He's probably dead. That fall should have maybe killed him. So Rocky is to just frickin' leave, and I think she just ends up frickin' just walking out of there with this money. Coincidentally, while Rocky is to make it out of the house, the police are to be called. So Rocky just runs like the devil is chasing her all the way back home. So Rocky is with her sister with her bag that is just like, ha ha ha, I got the money. Yeah, isn't this great? Rocky is to turn to some news report where she is to find out that the blind man is still alive. There's a report saying that this guy had fought off these two thieves, and he is to be like shown as a hero. And it's like, because the blind man had buried the girl, so technically he wasn't going to be up on murder charges anytime soon. And plus, that still looked like he defended himself in his own home. And plus, also, I'm sure that these police officers didn't go and thoroughly check through this guy's home to eventually go, hey, what's this secret corridor here for? Like, hey, like, what's all this weed here for? Hey, what's this secret passage thing going on? Wait a minute. Like, why? Why is this dead body that's buried underneath this ground here? Like, hey, there's some suspicious things going on here. So yeah, like that's really how the movie is to end. Some like, so how is sequel, like what is up with the sequel is like, wait a minute. Here's how I'm thinking the sequel breaks down. Don't Breathe 2 has the same blind man in it. So more than likely, because this guy had made the news, maybe there's another set of thieves that are trying to break into this guy's house. Like this is like God, what is it? Jodie Foster's like Panic Room all over again, where maybe I'm thinking this time around the blind guy is going to invest in a panic room, I hope. Or maybe just have like a smarter way of doing things. Good grief. So like it'll be interesting to see what the sequel holds, but like it'll also depend if people are interested in this movie or not. If people are, then I'll go and watch the sequel to like, because I know a lot of people are like, hey man, I saw the sequel and this and that, and I'm like okay, like I'll watch it regardless. But I have like thoughts about how the sequel could break down, but like it'll all depend on if people are interested about it, because the sequel movie has been out for a while, so who knows. But anyways, I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.